The red dust clung to Emily's leather boots as she adjusted her straw hat against the fierce morning sun. 12 years old, calloused hands, and eyes that had already seen more responsibility than many people see in a lifetime. She checked the papers inside the worn folder for the third time, making sure everything was there: the technical specifications, the chosen models, the serial numbers her father preferred. 7 years. 7 years of strict saving, of giving up the unnecessary, of watching her father wake before the sun and sleep after the moon. 7 years to reach this moment when they could finally renew the cooperative's fleet of combine harvesters. The loan approval had arrived the previous Friday, and Monday was the day set to close the deal. But her father couldn't go. The spinal injury, a consequence of years of heavy lifting and a fall during the last harvest, kept him on absolute bed rest. Emily still remembered the doctor saying that any exertion could worsen the situation. Her mother needed to stay home taking care of him and the 5-year-old twins who never stopped moving for a minute. It was up to her. The bus rattled down the dirt road to the highway, then another 40 minutes to the city. Emily used the trip to mentally review every specification: 400 horsepower engine, extended fuel tank capacity, reinforced hydraulic system, air-conditioned cab, and pneumatic suspension. She knew by heart the differences between competing models, the advantages of each brand, and the weak points her father had taught her to identify. The dealership stood imposing on the main avenue, with its gleaming glass walls and granite floor that mirrored the ceiling lights. Emily took a deep breath as she pushed the revolving door. The cold air conditioning contrasted with the heat outside, and her steps echoed in the silent environment. 3 salespeople were talking near the main counter. One of them looked in her direction and nudged his colleagues. Emily walked straight ahead, approaching the group with the folder tucked under her arm. That's when she appeared. The woman must have been in her mid-30s, wearing an impeccable burgundy pantsuit, high heels clicking on the floor, hair pulled back in a perfect bun. The gold badge on her chest identified her. Vanessa Carter, sales manager. She crossed the showroom with determined steps, but there was no welcome in her eyes. There was judgment. Emily introduced herself, extending her hand, which Vanessa completely ignored. "The toy store is 3 blocks from here, sweetie. I think you got lost." The words came with a condescending smile, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. Emily felt the heat rise up her neck, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm not lost. I came to buy combine harvesters. My father sent me to close the deal that was arranged last week." Vanessa's laughter echoed through the showroom. The other salespeople approached, curious. One of them, a young man in a starched blue shirt, crossed his arms and smirked. "Combine harvesters? Do you know how much a combine harvester costs, kid? Did you bring your pennies from your piggy bank?" Emily gripped the folder strap tightly. Her father had taught her about dignity, about keeping her head up even when others tried to diminish her. But nothing had prepared her for this. "I have all the documentation here. The financing was approved. It's 20 units of the model." 20 units! Vanessa interrupted with another burst of laughter, this time louder. "Look, honey, I don't know what kind of prank this is, but this is a serious dealership. We don't deal with kids' jokes. Go home, take a shower, and come back when your parents can actually come, okay?" The third salesman, older than the others, remained silent but did nothing to intervene. Emily looked around, searching for someone who might actually listen to her, but found only looks of scorn or indifference. "Just look at those boots," commented the guy in blue, pointing at Emily's feet. "Did you step in cow manure on the way here?" More laughter. Vanessa shook her head with false pity. "Sweetheart, we don't want to be rude, but you're tracking dirt into our establishment. These machines cost more than you'll earn in 10 lifetimes. Now be a good girl and leave before I have to call security." Emily felt her eyes sting, but she refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. She thought of her father, lying in bed in pain, trusting her. She thought of her mother, who had ironed the cleanest clothes she owned for this trip. She thought of the 7 years of sacrifice. Without saying another word, she turned and walked toward the exit. Behind her, she heard Vanessa comment loudly to her colleagues. That's what happens when parents don't raise their kids right, sending a child to do an adult's job. The revolving door returned her to the heat of the street. Emily crossed the avenue to a park on the other side and sat on a bench in the shade of a yellow trumpet tree. Her hands were shaking when she pulled the old cell phone from her backpack. Her mother answered on the second ring. "Mom, get all the official documents ready. Bank statements, cooperative credit letters, everything, and call the cooperative president. Ask him to lend us that new pickup truck that arrived last week." "What happened, honey?" Her mother's voice was worried. "They sent me away without even listening. They laughed at me, Mom. But I'm going back tomorrow, and I'm going to teach them a lesson they won't forget." "Emily, maybe it's better if your father goes when he's better, or I could—" "No." Emily cut her off, her voice firm despite the tears that were finally streaming down. "I'm going to handle this the right way." She hung up and sat there, watching the city move. A man was selling popsicles on the corner. An elderly woman dragged a shopping bag. Life went on normally for everyone else, while inside her, something had shifted. It wasn't anger she felt. It was determination. Emily opened the folder one more time and flipped through the documents. Each page represented years of hard work, of waking up early, of dealing with pests, droughts, and unfair prices. That money had her father's sweat in every cent. It had the nights her mother spent sewing clothes for extra income. It had the childhood she herself had given up to help on the farm, and those people had laughed at all of it. The sun began to dip toward the west when Emily finally stood up. She walked to the bus station, bought her return ticket, and waited for the bus sitting on an uncomfortable plastic chair. Her mind was already working on the plan for the next day. It was already night when she arrived at the farm. Her father was sitting on the porch, defying doctor's orders, with a glass of lemonade in his hands. His face lit up when he saw her, but he quickly realized something was wrong. "It didn't work out?" Emily climbed the porch steps and sat beside him. She told him everything, from her arrival to the humiliation. Her father listened in silence, his jaw growing tighter. When she finished, he sighed deeply. "We should just leave then. Look for another place." "No, Dad." Emily took his calloused hand. "I'm going back tomorrow, but I'm going back different. I'm going back to show them who we really are." And so, under the starry country sky, a 12-year-old girl plotted her revenge. Not a revenge of hatred, but of justice. Not of violence, but of recovered dignity. The alarm clock rang at 5 in the morning, but Emily had been awake for an hour. She had spent the night tossing and turning, mentally rehearsing every word, every gesture. Anxiety mixed with a determination she had never felt before. Her mother was already in the kitchen when Emily came down. On the table, carefully organized, were all the documents she had requested. Bank statements showing the 7 years of savings, credit letters from the Sun Valley Agricultural Cooperative with the official letterhead and notarized signatures, proof of land ownership, clearance certificates. Everything that proved, on stamped and official paper, that this family had not only the means, but excellent means, to buy an entire fleet of machines. Emily picked up each document, checking them one by one. Her mother watched in silence, pouring fresh coffee. "Are you sure about this, honey? You don't need to prove anything to those people." Emily looked up, and her mother saw something there that surprised her. It wasn't childish stubbornness. It was the same expression her husband had when making important decisions about the harvest. "It's not about proving, Mom. It's about teaching. If I let it slide, they'll keep doing this to other people, to other farmers who show up. They're in work clothes, to people who deserve respect but have no one to defend them." Her mother nodded slowly, recognizing her daughter's precocious wisdom. She served the coffee and sat beside her. "Your father asked me to give you this." She handed her a new brown leather executive folder, still smelling of the store. It wasn't luxurious, but it was elegant and professional. Emily ran her fingers over the smooth surface. "He bought it last year, thinking of using it for important cooperative meetings. He said today you're representing the family, so you need the right tools." Emily hugged, her mother smelling the familiar scent of lavender and coconut soap. Then she went up to her room to get ready. Her wardrobe was simple. It had school clothes, farm work clothes, and a single dressier outfit bought for her cousin's wedding the year before. Black dress pants, a white button-down shirt, and a navy blue blazer her mother had tailored to fit better. Emily took a long shower, washed her hair, and carefully combed it, tying it back in a low, elegant ponytail. She put on the white sneakers she only wore to church on Sundays. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. She looked older, more serious. But something was missing. She went back to the dresser and picked up the only accessory she owned, a small pair of silver earrings she had received from her grandmother before she passed. She put them in her pierced ears and took a deep breath. She was ready. Outside, the roar of a powerful engine announced the arrival of the cooperative president. Mr. Walter was a 60-year-old man with a prominent belly and a generous heart. He had built the cooperative from scratch, bringing together small farmers so they would have negotiating power. When Emily's mother called explaining the situation, he didn't hesitate. The truck that parked in front of the house was a brand new pickup, bought by the cooperative the previous month for use in official events and representations. Chrome, gleaming, with the cooperative's discreet logo on the door. Mr. Walter got out and waved. "Good morning, Emily. I came to be your driver today." Emily came down with the leather folder in her hands. Her father was on the porch, still struggling to stand, but insisted on slowly descending the steps. He hugged his daughter tightly. "Remember what I always taught you. Respect is not begged for, it is earned. But you also don't lose your class, no matter what others do. I know, Dad. And remember that you are not alone. You represent 240 families in the cooperative. Every one of them is counting on you today." Emily swallowed hard. She hadn't thought of it from that angle. Mr. Walter placed a hand on her shoulder. "Your father is right. But relax, kid. You were born for this. I saw you negotiate fertilizer prices with a middleman when you were 10. You know, what you're doing." The trip to the city seemed shorter than the day before. Emily sat in the back seat, reviewing the documents one last time. Mr. Walter drove in silence, respecting her concentration. Only when they entered the main avenue did he speak. "Just one thing, Emily. Today you get to choose. You can close the deal with them, or you can just teach the lesson and leave. Whatever choice you make, the cooperative supports it." Emily looked out the window, watching the dealership approach. The morning sun made the glass shine even brighter. She already knew exactly what she was going to do. "I already bought the machines, Mr. Walter." "What do you mean?" "Yesterday, after I left there, I didn't go straight to the bus station. I went to the competitor dealership on the other side of town. I walked in the same way, in the same dirty clothes. A salesman named Robert helped me. He offered water, pulled up a chair, and listened to everything I had to say. I closed the deal for 20 combine harvesters. They arrive next month." Mr. Walter almost slammed on the brakes in the middle of the street. He looked in the rearview mirror with wide eyes. You closed it yesterday? By yourself?" Robert called his manager, explained the situation. The manager came down, greeted me, checked the documents, and approved it right away. They gave a 10% discount for paying the financed amount in full, up front. I signed as the legal representative of the cooperative, using the power of attorney you gave my father last year. Mr. Walter started laughing, a deep laugh that shook his belly. "Smart girl. So today we're just going to just teach a lesson." Emily finished, and for the first time in 2 days, she smiled, a smile that held no joy, but held justice. The pickup parked right in front of the dealership's main entrance. Mr. Walter walked around and opened the door for Emily to step out, like a professional chauffeur would. She emerged holding the leather folder, her posture straight, her chin held high. 2 salesmen who were smoking at the entrance threw their cigarettes on the ground and rushed inside. Emily knew exactly what they were doing, announcing that an important client had arrived. Mr. Walter stayed outside, leaning against the truck, arms crossed. He nodded, a gesture of encouragement. Emily pushed the revolving door and entered. The showroom was exactly the same as the day before, the same mirrored floor, the same cold air conditioning, the same agricultural machines displayed like trophies. But this time, the reception was completely different. Vanessa Carter rushed out from the back of the store, her high heels clicking quickly on the granite. A smile was plastered on her face, but it was different from the condescending smile of the day before. It was the smile of someone who sees $1 million commission arriving. "Good morning. Welcome. Please come with me." Emily said nothing. She just followed Vanessa to a glass-walled meeting room on the second floor, overlooking the main showroom. The manager pulled out a cushioned chair, offered coffee, water, juice. Emily accepted only a glass of water. "So, what can we do for you today, ma'am?" Emily placed the folder on the glass table and opened it with calm movements. She took out the documents and organized them into separate piles. Vanessa watched with shining eyes, already imagining the numbers. "I need 20 combine harvesters." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of papers being organized on the table. Vanessa blinked twice, as if she needed to process the information. 20 combine harvesters. The sale of the year, maybe the decade. 20 units. Yes, of course, absolutely. Vanessa grabbed a pen and a notepad, her hands trembling slightly with excitement. "Which model are you considering? We have excellent options in stock, and we can offer a special payment condition. Cash." Emily said the two words with the same tranquility she would say good morning, but the effect was devastating. Vanessa dropped the pen. In the showroom below, the young man in the blue shirt from the day before had stopped near the glass staircase, watching the meeting. Another older salesman also approached, curious. "Cash?" Vanessa repeated, her voice failing. "You mean full payment, all at once, total financed value already approved by the cooperative, plus 7 years of savings. Here are the bank statements." Emily slid the first documents across the table. Vanessa took them with shaky hands. Her eyes scanned the lines, the numbers, the balances. They were impressive amounts. Amounts that confirmed that the young woman sitting across from her represented millions of dollars in business. This is wonderful." Vanessa tried to maintain professionalism, but the emotion leaked into her voice. "I'll need to call our commercial director to approve a sale of this magnitude. It's standard procedure. Do you mind waiting a few minutes?" "Feel free." Emily took a sip of water and leaned back in her chair, watching the movement downstairs. Salespeople showed tractors to customers. Administrative staff crossed the showroom with clipboards. Everything seemed normal, routine. But there, in that room, something was about to happen that no one would forget. Vanessa returned in less than 5 minutes, accompanied by a man in a gray suit, neatly combed gray, hair and glasses. He extended his hand before even fully entering the room. "Good morning. I'm Michael Thompson, Commercial Director. It's a huge pleasure to welcome you." Vanessa explained your interest in the combine harvesters. "It's a significant purchase, and we are very honored." He sat next to Vanessa and began to flip through the documents Emily had presented. With each page, his eyebrows rose a little higher. When he reached the cooperative's credit letters, he whistled softly. "Sun Valley Agricultural Cooperative. I know your reputation. Serious work, payments always on time. This makes our negotiation much easier." Emily watched the two of them in silence. Vanessa had opened a digital catalog on her tablet and began showing the technical specifications of the available machines. The commercial director spoke about delivery times, extended warranties, and maintenance packages. It was when he picked up the proof of land ownership to check the address that his expression changed. His eyes narrowed behind his glasses. He read it once, then reread it. He looked at Emily, then at the document, then at Emily again. "Santa Rita Farm, Secondary Road 3, Mile 12. Is that the correct address?" "Yes." "And you are—" He picked up another document, the one identifying the legal representative. "Emily Cavalcanti Silva, 12 years old, daughter of Joaquin Cavalcanti Silva." The blood drained from Vanessa's face. Emily saw the exact moment the memory sparked in the manager's eyes. The woman turned pale, her mouth slightly open, the tablet almost slipping from her hands. You were here yesterday." It wasn't a question. It was a realization filled with horror. The commercial director looked from Vanessa to Emily, confused. What do you mean, yesterday? Vanessa, she came yesterday? Why is there no record of service? Vanessa couldn't speak. She just stared at Emily as if seeing a ghost. The young man in the blue shirt, who had climbed the stairs and was now near the glass door of the room, also paled. He remembered. Emily took another sip of water, savoring the moment. She let the silence stretch for a few more seconds before speaking, her voice calm and controlled. I was here yesterday, yes. I arrived around 10 in the morning. I came straight from the fields, so my clothes were dirty with earth. My boots had red dust. My hair was messy under a straw hat. Vanessa closed, her eyes, as if she could erase what was about to happen. But Emily continued, every word measured and precise. I walked into this dealership with the same folder my father prepared, with the same documents that are on this table now. I came to do exactly what I am doing today. Buy 20 combine harvesters for the cooperative. But yesterday I was not welcomed. I was humiliated. Michael straightened in his chair, his face growing increasingly serious. Vanessa tried to explain herself, her words tripping over each other. I didn't know. I mean, you looked poor? Emily finished, her voice still serene but loaded with meaning. Looked dirty? Looked too young to be here? You told me the toy store was 3 blocks from here. You told me I should go home, take a shower, and come back when my parents could actually come. Michael turned to Vanessa with an expression that mixed disbelief and contained fury. The manager tried to shrink into her chair, tears already beginning to form. Your colleague over there? Emily pointed to the young man in the blue shirt watching from the door. He laughed at my clothes. He asked if I had stepped in manure on the way to the store. He suggested I had brought coins from my piggy bank to pay. The young man took a step back, wanting to disappear, but it was too late. Other employees began to gather in the hallway, drawn by the drama unfolding in the glass room. Emily opened another section of the folder and pulled out a business card. She placed it on the table in front of Michael. The commercial director picked up the card, read it, and closed his eyes for a long moment. Rock & Sons dealership. Their biggest competitor in the region. Yesterday, after leaving here, I went to that dealership. I walked in the same way I walked in here, in the same dirty clothes, with the same dusty boots, with the same straw hat. Do you know how I was received? No one answered. Emily continued. A salesman named Robert asked if I needed help. He offered a glass of water. He pulled up a chair for me to sit. He listened to what I had to say. When I explained that I was representing my father and the cooperative, he didn't laugh. He didn't doubt me. He called the manager, explained the situation, and within 2 hours, the deal was closed. Vanessa put her hand over her mouth, stifling a sob. Michael had closed the tablet catalog and was now staring fixedly at the table, his jaw tense. 20 combine harvesters, premium model, cash payment, 10% discount for the full purchase. Extended 5-year warranty included. Full preventive maintenance package. The machines arrive in the first week of next month. Emily took back the business card and put it in the folder. Then she organized all the documents in order with slow and deliberate movements. Every second of silence weighed like lead on Vanessa's shoulders. I didn't come back here today to buy. I made that clear. I came back so you would know what you lost. So you would understand that the dirty little girl you kicked out yesterday had more money in her folder than many of the clients you serve in an entire year. Michael finally found his voice, though it came out hoarse. Emily, on behalf of the dealership, I offer my deepest apologies for what happened. This does not represent our values. This is not who we are. Emily looked directly at him, and the man saw a maturity in the girl's eyes that disconcerted him. With all due respect, Mr. Thompson, this is exactly who you are. Or at least, it's who your team is when you're not looking. The problem wasn't a lack of money. It was a lack of respect. And respect is not something you only give to those who are well-dressed or arrived in an expensive car. Emily closed the leather folder with a dry snap that echoed through the room. She rose from the chair with calm movements without haste. Vanessa remained, seated, her face buried in her hands, her shoulders shaking. The young man in the blue shirt had disappeared from the hallway. Only Michael remained there, standing now, his hands resting on the table as if he needed support. "Please, sit down for a moment longer." His voice sounded tired, defeated. "I understand your position. I understand that the damage is done, but allow me to at least try to correct part of this." Emily hesitated. She looked out the glass window and saw Mr. Walter downstairs leaning against the truck, giving her a thumbs up. She sat down again, but kept the folder on her lap, making it clear she wouldn't stay long. Michael pulled his chair closer, ignoring Vanessa, who was silently weeping beside him. "My father started this dealership 30 years ago. He started selling tools in a 20-square-foot store. He always said that the man of the land was the most honest customer there was. Hard-working, a man of his word, someone whose handshake on a deal was worth more than any signed contract." He paused, taking off his glasses to clean the lenses, but Emily realized it was more to gain time and control his emotion. "We built all of this on that principle, respecting those who work the land, understanding that sometimes the customer arrives here straight from the field and that their calloused hands are worth more than any imported suit. My father always personally attended to the farmers, no matter the size of the property or the purchase." Emily listened in silence. Michael put his glasses back on and looked directly at her. "He passed away 3 years ago, and perhaps in the midst of the company's growth we lost a bit of what he taught. It's not an excuse, it's a realization. And you, at 12 years old, have just given me the most important lesson I could receive." Vanessa finally lifted her face. Tears had smudged her perfect makeup. When she spoke, her voice was choked. "I have no excuse, none. I judged by appearance and age. I was arrogant, self-important, and cruel. You didn't deserve that. No one deserves that." Emily looked at the woman. For a moment, she almost felt pity. Almost. But then she remembered the mocking laughter, the cutting words, the public humiliation. She remembered how she had held back tears as she walked out, how she had trembled with shame and anger on the park bench. An apology doesn't undo what was done. Emily spoke firmly. "And it's not just about me. How many other people have you treated like that? How many other farmers, workers, simple folk who walked in here and were judged by the clothes they wore?" The silence that followed was the answer. Vanessa lowered her head again. Michael sighed deeply. "You are right. And that changes starting now. But I need you to know that there will be consequences. Serious consequences." He looked at Vanessa with an expression that left no doubt about what was coming. The manager understood and closed her eyes, accepting the fate she had dug for herself. Emily stood up again, this time determined to leave. Michael accompanied her to the door of the room. In the hallway, the employees who had gathered quickly dispersed, embarrassed. The news had already spread throughout the entire dealership. Everyone knew what had happened. On the glass staircase, Emily stopped and turned to Michael one last time. "My father always says that you don't measure a person's character by what they do when they are being watched, but by what they do when they think no one is looking. Yesterday, when I walked in here, you showed who you were when you thought it didn't matter. Today, well-dressed and in a nice car, you showed who you are when you think it does matter. Think about that." She walked down the stairs without looking back. The main showroom was in absolute silence. All the salespeople, all the employees, all the customers who were being served, everyone looked at the 12-year-old girl who had just given a lesson in dignity to an entire company. Mr. Walter opened the truck door when he saw her approach. Emily got in, placed the folder on the seat beside her, and took a deep breath. Only then, within the safety of that space, did she allow her shoulders to relax. "So?" Mr. Walter asked, starting the engine. "Mission accomplished." He smiled and drove off. The truck pulled away from the dealership, leaving behind a trail of lessons that no one there would soon forget. On the way back, Emily looked out the window as the city landscape gave way to the fields. Mr. Walter turned the radio on low, a soft country song playing. after a few minutes. He broke the silence. You know, Emily, I've known Michael Thompson for about 15 years. I've done business with his dealership a few times before we started working with Rock & Sons. He's a decent man, but decency at the top doesn't matter if the team below doesn't carry the same values. Emily nodded, still processing everything that had happened. What do you think will happen to Vanessa? Mr. Walter shrugged, keeping his eyes on the road. She'll probably be fired. A manager who scares away $1 million deal because of prejudice doesn't have much of a future in the company. But you know what? Maybe it's even good for her. Sometimes you have to fall to learn how to get back up better. They drove in silence for a few more miles. The asphalt road began to give way to dirt. It was almost noon when they spotted the entrance to Santa Rita Farm. Emily's father was on the porch again, this time accompanied by her mother and the twins. When they saw the truck approaching, everyone came down to the yard. Emily had barely gotten out of the car when her younger siblings jumped on her, hugging her legs. So, negotiator? Her father asked, his eyes shining with anticipation. Emily told him everything, every detail, every word exchanged, every expression on Vanessa's and Michael's faces. Her father listened attentively, nodding at times. When she finished, he pulled her into a tight hug. You did it perfectly, daughter. You didn't lose your class, you didn't stoop to their level, but you also didn't let it slide. I'm proud. Her mother discreetly wiped a tear and invited everyone for lunch. Mr. Walter accepted the invitation, and soon the house was filled with conversation and laughter. The twins wanted to know if Emily had driven the truck. Her father joked that they would now have to officially appoint her as the family's commercial director. But amidst the joy, Emily couldn't completely shake the image of Vanessa crying in that room. It wasn't pity, exactly. It was something more complex, the understanding that her actions had real consequences in the lives of other people, even when those people had been cruel first. In the afternoon, when Mr. Walter left and the twins took their nap, Emily sat with her father on the porch. The sun began to decline, painting the sky orange and pink. Her father lit a straw cigarette, something he only did rarely in moments of reflection. You're thinking about her, aren't you? Emily looked at her father in surprise. He smiled faintly. I know you, daughter. You're thinking about the manager. If you did the right thing. She nodded slowly. She was cruel to me, Dad. But was I cruel back? I knew what I was going to do could cost her job. Does that make me just as bad? Her father took a long drag and slowly exhaled the smoke, thinking about the answer. You didn't go there to cost her job. You went to teach a lesson. The consequence of the job is her responsibility, not yours. She chose to treat you that way. You just chose not to let it go. There's a difference in that. He paused, watching the clouds move slowly. You know, Emily, in life we have to learn two difficult things. One is knowing when to forgive. The other is knowing when not to let people walk all over you. The balance between the two is what makes the difference between being nice and being just. You were just, Emily. Let the words settle in her heart. Gradually, the weight she felt began to lessen. She had done what needed to be done. Not out of revenge, but out of justice. Not out of malice, but out of dignity. And sometimes, she thought, watching the sunset tint the fields golden, sometimes teaching a lesson is the greatest act of kindness we can do. The news spread through the small town with the speed that only small-town gossip can achieve. At the bakery, the market, the main square, at the bar tables, everyone was commenting on the 12-year-old girl who had humiliated the manager of the region's most luxurious dealership. The versions varied in detail, but the essence remained. A child farmer had taught a moral lesson to arrogant adults. The day after the incident, when Emily went to town with her mother to shop at the market, she noticed the stares. Some people pointed discreetly. Others came up to greet her openly. Mrs. Francis, from the fabric store, held her hand tightly. My daughter, you did what many of us wish we had the courage to do. How many times are we mistreated by people who think they are better, just because they have a degree or expensive clothes? Emily smiled shyly, still unaccustomed to the attention. Her mother gently pulled her away, wanting to protect her from the excessive exposure. But it was impossible to go unnoticed. In the butcher line, in the market aisle, at the pharmacy, everyone wanted to talk, congratulate her, and tell their own stories of humiliation and prejudice. An elderly man, whom Emily recognized as the owner of a small farm nearby, approached them at the supermarket exit. "Miss, I don't know if you know, but what you did echoed far beyond this town. My son-in-law lives in the capital and called me this morning saying the story is all over social media. People are sharing it, commenting, saying you are an example of dignity." Emily's eyes widened. Social media? She barely used the old cell phone she had, and when she did, it was only to call her parents or look up school questions. Her mother thanked the man and hurried their pace to the car. On the way back to the farm, she spoke in a worried tone. "Emily, all this attention might not be good. People will start creating expectations, inventing stories. You are still a girl. You can't carry the weight of the world on your shoulders." "I know, Mom. I just did what I thought was right. I don't want to be famous or anything." But the attention didn't diminish. 2 days later, a journalist from the small local newspaper showed up at the farm asking for an interview. Her father received him on the porch, still limping slightly from the injury, and got straight to the point. "My daughter will not give an interview. She did what she had to do, and now she wants to return to her normal life. Study, help on the farm, be a kid." The journalist, a young man with round glasses, insisted. "But Mr. Silva, her story is inspiring people. There's an important discussion happening about class prejudice, about how we treat rural workers, about respect. Her voice matters." Joaquin shook his head, firm. "Her voice has already spoken. She spoke when she walked into that dealership, when she was humiliated, and when she returned to teach the lesson. That is more eloquent than any interview. Now, with all due respect, I need to ask you to leave my property." The journalist left, but the story didn't die. Without a direct interview, he published an article based on third-party accounts with the title, "12-Year-Old Girl Teaches Luxury Dealership a Lesson in Dignity." The article spread, shared in farmer groups, on pages about parenting, in forums about respect and prejudice. Meanwhile, inside the dealership, the consequences of the episode unfolded inevitably. Michael Thompson had spent the night sleepless, turning over every word Emily had said in his head. In the morning, he arrived at work an hour early and called an emergency meeting with all employees. The training room was full. Salespeople, administrative staff, workshop mechanics, receptionists. Everyone knew the reason for the meeting. Vanessa was sitting in the back, her eyes swollen, minimal makeup, the slumped posture of someone who had already accepted defeat. Michael began without preamble. "You all already know what happened. A potential client, a 12-year-old girl representing one of the most respected cooperatives in the region, was humiliated and expelled from this establishment. We lost a multi-million-dollar sale. But that is the least of it. We lost something much more valuable. We lost the trust of an entire community." He walked around the room, looking into the eyes of each employee. "My father built this company on one simple principle: respect the working man. It doesn't matter if he shows up in a tractor or a Mercedes, if he's wearing overalls or a suit, if he wants to buy a single bolt or a whole fleet of machinery. Respect is fundamental. It's the bare minimum, and we failed." The young man in the blue shirt, whose name was Philip, shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Marcus stood in front of him. "Philip, you laughed at the girl's clothes. You made jokes about her stepping in manure. You thought it was funny to humiliate a 12-year-old child who came here to conduct serious business. I didn't think that exactly. You didn't think. You didn't think that child might have more responsibility on her shoulders than you've had in your entire life. You didn't think she was here representing 240 families. You didn't think she might have more money in that folder than you'll see in years of commission." Philip lowered his head, his face red with shame. Marcus turned to Vanessa. "And you, Vanessa, you are a manager. You should be setting an example. But you were the one who led the humiliation. You were the one who told a client to go home and take a shower. You were the one who laughed the loudest. Vanessa started crying again, but this time, no one felt sorry for her. Her own colleagues looked at her with a mixture of anger and contempt. She had embarrassed all of them. Marcus returned to the front of the room. I am implementing immediate changes. First, mandatory quarterly training on customer service with an emphasis on empathy and respect. Second, any employee caught discriminating against or humiliating a client for any reason, appearance, age, social class, anything, will be fired for cause immediately. No second chances. Third, we are establishing a direct channel for complaints that will come straight to me. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. As for you, Vanessa, Marcus looked directly at her. You are fired, for cause. There is no negotiation possible. You may collect your belongings now. The room fell into absolute silence. Vanessa didn't react, as if she had already expected it. She stood up slowly, her legs shaky, and left the room without looking at anyone. The sound of the door closing echoed like a final sentence. Philip, you have a second chance only because you didn't initiate this, but you are on a 6-month probation period. One mistake, one single lapse in conduct, and you're out too. Philip nodded vigorously, relieved not to have lost his job. The meeting ended on a heavy note. Employees returned to their posts in silence, each reflecting on their own attitudes. Marcus remained alone in the room for long minutes, looking out the window at the street traffic. His cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. He answered. Hello, Marcus. This is Walter from the Sun Valley Cooperative. Mr. Walter. Marcus's tone immediately became respectful. How are you doing? I'm doing well. Calling to give you some news. Marina told the whole cooperative what happened. Her story, both at your dealership and at Rocha and Sons. And you know, Marcus, the folks here were impressed with your reaction, with the fact that you fired the manager, that you took charge of the situation. Marcus didn't know if this was good or bad. He waited for Walter to continue. So we decided to give you a chance. The cooperative's next fleet renewal, 3 years from now, we want to negotiate with you. If you maintain the standard of respect you promised, if we don't hear any more stories of discrimination, the business is yours. Marcus felt his chest tighten with emotion. Mr. Walter, I don't know what to say. Thank you so much. I swear you won't regret it. Don't thank me, son. Thank Marina. She's the one who championed your cause here. She said you seemed sincere in your regret. She said everyone deserves a second chance, even those who messed up badly. After hanging up, Marcus stared at the phone for a long time. A 12-year-old girl, humiliated in his establishment, was defending him, giving him a second chance, showing a generosity that he, a 40-year-old man, wasn't sure he would possess in the same situation. He grabbed his car keys. There was something he needed to do. The sun was already beginning to set when Marcus Tavares' pickup truck turned onto the dirt road leading to the Santa Rita farm. He had never been there before, but he knew the place's reputation. Well-kept land, consistent production, one of the most respected properties in the cooperative. Even so, he wasn't prepared for the simple beauty that revealed itself when he passed through the wooden gate. Cornfields stretched out on one side, the crop gently swaying in the afternoon breeze. On the other, green pasture where a few dairy cows grazed peacefully. The main house, with exposed brick and a wide porch, stood in the center of the property, surrounded by fruit trees and a well-maintained garden. Chickens pecked freely in the yard. It was a piece of hard-working, honest America, producing the food that fed the country. Marcus parked near the porch. Before he even got out of the car, the front door opened. James Cavalcanti, still with a slight limp, came out to see who was arriving. He recognized Marcus immediately, and his expression became cautious. Good afternoon, Mr. James. Marcus got out of the truck, his hands nervous. I apologize for showing up unannounced. I needed to talk to you all. With Marina, if she'll receive me. James studied the man for a long moment. Then, with a nod, he invited him up. "Come in. I'll call the girl." The house inside was simple but welcoming. Dark wood furniture, a floral fabric sofa, crocheted, curtains on the windows. Family photos on the walls told the story of these people: weddings, baptisms, bountiful harvests. A surprisingly vast bookshelf occupied an entire wall of the living room. Marina appeared from the hallway, still dressed in work clothes, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She stopped when she saw Marcus, but showed neither surprise nor anger. She simply waited. Marina's mother emerged behind her, wiping her hands on a dish towel. The twins peeked curiously from the kitchen doorway. It was clearly an important moment, and everyone in the family felt it. "Marina, this is Mr. Marcus from the dealership." James made the formal introductions. "He would like to speak with you if you agree." Marina nodded and sat on the sofa. Marcus remained standing, uncomfortable, twirling a baseball cap in his hands. James and his wife sat down too, making it clear they wouldn't leave. Whatever he had to say would be said in front of the whole family. "Marina, Marcus started and stopped, searching for the right words. "I came here personally to apologize. Not as the owner of the dealership, but as a human being. What happened to you at my establishment was unacceptable, unforgivable, and the ultimate responsibility is mine." Marina watched him in silence, her eyes attentive. "I fired Vanessa this morning, for cause. I also put Philip on probation. I implemented new training and conduct policies. But I know that doesn't erase what you felt, the humiliation you endured." He finally sat down in the armchair James indicated, the cap still spinning between his fingers. "My father started that dealership selling tools in a rented room. He grew up on a farm. The son of sharecroppers, he knew what it was like to be looked down upon. When he prospered, he swore he would never treat anyone the way he had been treated. He built the business on respect, and I let that get lost. I became so focused on growing, on selling more, on opening branches, that I didn't notice when the essence started to die." His voice cracked. Marina saw a man genuinely devastated, not by the loss of money, but by the loss of something much more valuable. "You taught me a lesson I won't forget. A 12-year-old girl taught me what I should have learned from my father. And the most incredible thing is that even after everything, you still spoke well of me to Mr. Walter. You still gave me a second chance that I don't know if I deserve." Marina finally spoke, her voice calm and measured. "Mr. Marcus, I didn't speak well of you out of kindness. I spoke because I saw something in the meeting we had. I saw that you were genuinely shocked, genuinely ashamed. And my father always taught me that we measure people not only by the mistakes they make, but by what they do after those mistakes." James nodded in approval. Marina's mother discreetly wiped a tear. "But you need to understand one thing." Marina leaned forward, her eyes fixed on Marcus's. "What happened to me wasn't an isolated incident. It happens every day to all kinds of people. Workers who enter stores and are followed as if they were thieves. Farm women who are mistreated in hospitals. Honest men who are treated as if they are less because they have dirt under their fingernails. If you really want to change, it can't just be at your dealership. It has to be a real change, one that spreads." Marcus listened to every word, as if it were sacred scripture. "I understand, and I will do that. Not just in my company, but I will talk to other business owners. I will tell your story wherever they let me. I will make sure your example is not forgotten." He stood up, extending his hand. This time, Marina shook it. A firm handshake as equals between two human beings who mutually respected each other. Before leaving, Marcus turned at the door. "One last thing. The 20 combine harvesters you bought from Rocha and Sons. When they need maintenance, parts, anything, my workshop is at your disposal. Free, of charge, for the next 5 years. It's the least I can do." Marina looked at her father, who nodded. It was a generous offer, and to refuse it would be arrogant. "I accept. But not because you owe us. I accept because that's how you build bridges, and a good bridge serves both sides. Marcus smiled for the first time since he arrived. A child was teaching him about forgiveness, about second chances, about how to be a better human being. He got into his truck and waved as he drove away, taking with him lessons that would transform not only his business, but his entire life. That night, the Cavalcanti family ate dinner together at the large kitchen table. Rice, beans, free-range chicken that their mother had prepared, vegetables from their own garden. The twins chattered about their day at school. James told jokes that made everyone laugh. Marina helped her mother serve, and in that moment of absolute simplicity, she understood something profound. It wasn't the 20 combine harvesters that mattered. It wasn't the money saved over 7 years. It wasn't even the lesson she had taught. What mattered was right there, at that table. Family, dignity, values that could not be bought or sold. True wealth was not measured in acres or farm machinery. It was measured in self-respect, in integrity, in knowing who you are regardless of how others see you. After dinner, she went out onto the porch with her father. The night was clear, stars sprinkling the sky like diamonds scattered over black velvet. Her father lit his straw cigarette, and they stood there in comfortable silence, listening to the chorus of cicadas and the distant barking of the neighbors' farm dogs. "You grew up too fast these last few days," James spoke, softly. "You had to learn things that even adults don't fully grasp." Marina leaned her head on his shoulder. "You always say the farm teaches you, that the earth doesn't lie, doesn't pretend, doesn't cheat. I think I learned that. I learned that we have to be like the earth, honest, firm, and always ready to bear good fruit when treated right." James kissed the top of his daughter's head, his heart tight with pride and love. "You are special, Marina. Not because of what you did at that dealership, but because you have something that many people lose along the way. You know who you are, and no one can take that from you." The months followed their natural course. The 20 combine harvesters arrived as promised, gleaming, powerful, smelling new. The cooperative organized an event to receive them with colorful flags and emotional speeches. Marina was called to the makeshift stage and received a plaque of honor. She accepted it humbly, thanked everyone quickly, and returned to the anonymity she preferred. That year's harvest was a record. The combination of modern machinery, hard work, and a well-distributed rainy season resulted in production that exceeded all expectations. The cooperative prospered. Families paid off old debts, renovated their homes, bought new equipment. The 7 years of savings and the investment in technology had been worth every penny saved. Vanessa, the former manager, tried to start over in the city, but the story had deeply marked her. No one wanted to hire someone known for humiliating clients. After 3 months unemployed, she moved to a bigger city where no one knew her past. It is said that today she works in a call center, serving customers over the phone, where no one can judge anyone by appearance. They also say she was never arrogant with anyone again, that the episode had broken something inside her and rebuilt it better. Philip, the salesman who had laughed along, remained at the dealership, but he changed completely. He became the most attentive of the staff, especially with simpler clients. He had learned his lesson, and unlike Vanessa, he was lucky enough to learn it without losing his job. Marcus Tavares's dealership underwent a profound transformation. Empathy training became mandatory and constant. He hired a consultant specializing in humanized service. He printed and framed a phrase that now decorated the main wall of the showroom. "Respect is priceless, but its absence costs everything." He didn't sign the phrase, but everyone knew it was a silent tribute to Marina. 3 years later, as promised, the cooperative did business with Marcus again. This time it was 15 new combine harvesters, negotiated directly with Mr. Walter, but with Marina present at the meeting as an observer. She was now 15, in her sophomore year of high school, and already talking about studying agronomy at the university. But she remained the same, humble, hard-working, with her feet firmly planted on the red earth that raised her. The night the second purchase was finalized, Marina returned home and found her father on the porch, in the same spot as always. He no longer limped. The injury had completely healed. She sat down beside him. "Dad, Marcus thanked me again today. He said I saved his company. That after what happened, he changed everything and business improved because his reputation improved." James took a slow drag from his cigarette. "And what do you think about that?" Marina thought before answering. "I don't think I saved anything. I think I just showed him what was already there. His character was always good. It was just buried under other things. Sometimes we need a shock to remember who we really are. 20 years of wisdom in a 15-year-old girl." James smiled. The earth really does teach. They stayed there late, father and daughter, watching the stars and listening to the farm breathe around them. And in that silence filled only by the sounds of the night, both understood the same truth. That dignity is not lost when others try to take it from you. It is only lost when you abandon it yourself. And as long as Marina Cavalcanti Silva kept her feet on the ground and her heart in the right place, no one would ever be able to take away what truly mattered. End of story. If Marina's journey touched your heart, if you felt the strength of dignity earned through honest work and self-respect, know that we have many other stories that celebrate the values that truly matter. Stories of simple people doing extraordinary things, of lessons learned in the field of life, of second chances and deserved redemption. Hit the like button if you believe that respect is something everyone deserves, regardless of the clothes they wear or the car they drive. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories that will move, teach, and inspire you. And in the comments, tell us, have you ever been through a similar situation? How did you react? Your story can inspire others too, because in the end, we are all part of the same earth. And good earth bears good fruit when cultivated with respect, hard work, and love. Until the next story.